Just waiting a little bit from Nastassia. That's okay, Nastassia. It's okay. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk here in GABAC, Nastassia. Please introduce a little bit yourself to us. I'm André Calcio, your host from Brazil.
Hi everyone, I'm Nastassia. So I'm a senior business analyst and product owner. I also have my master's degree in information technology. I also got a few certifications in business analysis. But very recently, I've become interested in contributing to the community. So I started my let's say international speaking career, and so I attend very like regularly, I would say, different meetups, conferences on product management and business analysis topics mostly. So I also write different articles. I have a few blogs where I just try to reflect on my own, experience, any things that failed, anything that's worked well, so that we can just exchange opinions and stay, competitive. Yeah. So, and I also serve as a editorial lead for IAB Poland chapter. So I will just use this opportunity. So if you have anything to share, any experience, anything, happened on your project, or you have great tips, tricks on how to do some particular stuff in business analysis, so please reach out to me and we can organize your article published and also, promote it across IAB Poland. So yeah, you don't have to be a member, so it's also great to contribute and share experiences. You'll also have a review process, so it's also important to know that someone has reviewed your work and assessed it and also published it. So it's like uh, an external contribution, but at the same time, when external people uh, find out that your work is valuable, it's something that, one fact that you can share and be proud of in the future.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's start.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen with the presentation. I hope you can see it. All right. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here today and being patient to listen to my talk through the whole talk, and because I'm going to share some very valuable stuff which I believe can help you manage your day-to-day activities and also leverage AI more efficiently. So if we were in a live room, I would start with a quick question. How many of you used AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, etc. this week? So usually when I ask people those questions, I see that most of them have their hands up. But when the second question comes in, something changes. So the second question sounds like if you used AI specifically to challenge your assumptions or question your thinking. And at this stage, I just have one or two people in the whole room with the raised hands. And that's exactly the problem that I would like to talk about today. Most teams don't use, they use AI primarily as an answer machine. We ask it to write requirements, summarize research, generate ideas, or maybe propose some solutions. AI has become incredibly good at producing outputs quickly, and we all see this in our daily lives. But what if the most valuable role of AI in business analysis specifically is not generating answers? What if the real value is in challenging our thinking? Instead of treating AI as an oracle that provides some, ready-to-build solutions, we can use it. We can use it as something that is much more powerful, a structured dissenter. So that's my proposition. A thinking partner that questions assumptions, surfaces alternative perspectives, and helps us stress test early ideas before we commit to building them. So today I want to show you how business analysts and product managers can use AI in that way, not to replace thinking, but to strengthen it so that our work becomes more visible and um, you know uh, valuable for our business stakeholders. So let's start by looking at how most teams currently use AI. The typical workflow is quite simple. So you can see this small diagram on the screen. A human asks a question, then AI produces an answer, and then the team moves forward with that answer. The prompts we often see look like this: write user stories, summarize some market research, generate functional and non-functional requirements, suggest solutions, or draft some documentation based on some templates, for example, business requirements documentation. In other words, AI becomes a production machine for outputs. And to be clear, there is like nothing wrong about that. AI can save time, of course, automate some repetitive tasks that we have, and helps us organize information more efficiently. But there is a hidden trade-off when we do this way. When we focus primarily on generating outputs, we tend to optimize for speed rather than quality of thinking. For business analysts, and product people, the most important work happens before any output is produced. So this is like the invisible part of business analysis work. If it happens in discovery, in problem definition, in challenging assumptions, in helping teams understand what is actually happening. And if the problem isn't misunderstood by the whole team, faster outputs just simply mean we reach the wrong solution more efficiently. So the real question becomes how we can use AI not just to accelerate the delivery, but to improve the quality of thinking that happens before delivery begins. At least that's the question for me, which I started thinking about. There is also, I would like just to highlight a few hidden risks here. One important risk that appears when we rely heavily on AI to generate answers is related to the fact that AI is extremely good at sounding confident. It's also very good at recognizing patterns in how, in the way we ask questions and we speak to AI. So what that means in practice is that AI often reinforces the framing of the question we provide. If our question contains an assumption, AI will usually build on that assumption rather than challenge it. For example, if we ask AI for how to improve a chatbot experience, it will likely provide suggestions about improving chatbot design, and I'm sure those suggestions and ideas would be brilliant. But it will not necessarily question whether a chatbot is the right solution in the first place. This creates a subtle but important problem. AI can unintentionally amplify our existing biases, and you can see the list of biases on the screen. So, for example, confirmation bias happens when we look for evidence that supports our idea. So we wrongly assume that the solution that we are asking AI to present or to write requirements for is already something that solves the problem, which most of the cases is not, it's not true. Solution bias occurs when we jump to solution before fully understanding the problem. And stakeholder bias can appear when a strong opinion from leadership, from senior management, shapes the direction of a project. And as business analysts, if we are not careful with that, AI can reinforce all three of these biases by producing answers that align with the assumptions embedded in our questions. So the key insight here is this: AI doesn't generate answers. It generates answers that fit the framing of the question we ask. And if the question is flawed, AI may confidently help us improve in the wrong direction. And that's the way, that is why the way we use AI during discovery. It's like I would like to highlight this specific part: discovery and analysis, like business analysis of some complex request, matters so much. So what's the alternative, right? Because something has to be done with this. Instead of using AI primarily as an oracle, we can use it as a structured dissenter. So what it means in practice. So when AI acts as an oracle, we treat it as a source of answers. So we just blindly assume that it provides us good answers that just solve our, very small problem. Like, for example, a problem for us or some task for us for today can be just, generate or create some requirements document. And for us, it's a task and we want it to be solved quicker, right? And we expect it to produce ready-to-build solutions, some great summaries, and give us recommendations on maybe some decision-making, some prioritization, and others. But when AI acts as a structure at the center, its role becomes very different. Instead of conforming our thinking, it challenges it. It questions the assumptions behind our ideas. It also suggests some alternative explanations. It highlights potential risks and blind spots. This is particularly powerful in our analysis work because many organizations struggle with an open, with open disagreement when people may hesitate to challenge assumptions made by senior stakeholders. Teams may avoid questioning early decisions because the project has already started moving forward and they have to ship some features. AI doesn't have those constraints, so it can safely play the role of the skeptical colleague who asks difficult questions. So the mindset shift is very simple but powerful. Every time AI gives you an answer, you can ask it to challenge that answer. Ask what assumption it relies on. Ask what might make it wrong or what alternative explanations might exist. So when we do this consistently, so not just once, but every time we use AI, we interact with AI stops being just a content generator for us and becomes something much more valuable, like a true thinking partner that improves the quality of analysis and the artifacts that we produce. So now I would like just to briefly mention three techniques that I found specifically useful to help me, treat AI as a thinking partner. So the first technique is related to assumption stress testing. In many projects, stakeholder statements sound like facts. For example, someone might say customers need a mobile app, or users want more automation, or we need AI to improve this process. But mm, you know, every each of these statements um, hides a number of unstated assumptions. If we move forward just straight into solution design, we may never examine those assumptions carefully. This is where AI can help analysts. We can ask AI to identify and challenge the assumptions behind a statement. So, for example, we might prompt AI with something simple like, list the assumptions behind the idea and challenge each one. The output might reveal several underlying questions. So, as an example, do customers actually want a mobile app or do they simply want easier access to information? Is the real issue speed, convenience, or transparency? Could the problem be solved through notifications, some improved communication, and better service design instead? The goal of this technique is not to reject stakeholder ideas, no, but the goal is to surface what needs validation. So not just to blindly believe whatever comes from especially business stakeholders or unhappy users, whatever comes from them is truth, but to have those ideas, have those statements, comments validated in some way. And by exposing assumptions early to AI, analysts can guide discovery conversations like various workshops or some brainstorming sessions more effectively and ensure that the team explores the real problem before committing to a solution. Another technique is counterfactual thinking, which means intentionally exploring the possibility that our hypothesis might be wrong. So, because I've seen that, and I also have done this mistake many times, that in many teams, how we work. So, once a hypothesis is formed, the natural tendency is to start collecting evidence that supports it. But effective analysis requires exploring alternative explanations. So here AI can help us do this very quickly. You can imagine a team that believes that users abandoned the checkout flow because the process is too long. Instead of immediately optimizing the checkout flow, maybe fixing some bugs or simplifying it by reducing number of steps, we can ask AI something like, assume this hypothesis is incorrect. What other explanations could exist? AI might propose possibilities such as unexpected shipping costs or lack of trust in payment methods that we provide, some mandatory account creation before a purchase, or it might be maybe we have some mobile usability problems. And the goal here is not to replace research or user interviews, no, because anyway, we will need to verify whatever AI can suggest, right? So because AI can suggest a lot of potential, drawbacks of our hypothesis. So, but our goal is to know about those various sides of the problem and to make sure we include those clarifying questions in user interviews or some surveys, questionnaires, etc. So our goal will be to expand the space of possible explanations that we consider, the list of possible problems that might be the real root cause of the existing business outcome. And when teams examine multiple possibilities instead of focusing on a single explanation, they are much more likely to discover the true root cause of the problem. So that's the eventual goal here. And the last technique is about problem reframing. The way a problem is framed strongly influences the solutions that teams explore. If a team defines a solution as we need better search functionality, the conversation will likely focus on improving some search algorithm, maybe filters or indexing. But if search is not actually the underlying problem of the business outcome that we have today, we can ask AI to reframe the problem in several different ways. So here on the slide, you can see the example that we prompt AI with something like reframe this problem in 5 different ways, focusing on user outcomes. And the results might be, there can be a wide range of various and alternative, paths and interpretations that AI can come up with. But in this specific case, in this specific example, maybe our users struggle with to identify which product fits their needs. Maybe they do not trust the results that appear. Maybe they feel overwhelmed with too many options or some advertisements maybe, or maybe they want just recommendations, that they want our app to have recommendations instead of having them search manually. So by reframing the problem from multiple perspectives, business analysts can be very helpful because they open new directions for discovery, and they help teams avoid prematurely narrowing the solution space. And now I would like to share a real example of how to apply all these techniques that I just mentioned. And let's just imagine, I hope most of you would be able to recognize this example. So imagine a stakeholder approaches you and says that we need a chatbot to reduce support costs. So at first glance, this sounds like a clear requirement, very straightforward. Many teams and many organizations, they immediately jump into solution design at this point. Teams start discussing chatbot platforms, some conversational flows, maybe AI models, and various integration requirements with different support systems. But in this approach, we pause before designing the solution. So it's our new approach. Instead of asking AI to help design the chatbot and prepare the specific, list of user stories, acceptance criteria for the chatbot, we ask it to challenge the underlying assumption. For example, we might ask, challenge this assumption that implementing a chatbot will reduce support costs. Because we are not, as business analysts, we can, when we're not sure, we didn't have any proof, for example, data, any evidence that support costs directly related to the chatbot. AI might suggest that support costs could be driven by several other factors. Perhaps customers struggle with onboarding. Maybe documentation is difficult to navigate. Maybe internal processes make support agents inefficient. Next, we ask AI to help generate discovery questions. For example, what questions should we answer before choosing the solution? This might produce follow-up questions like, what are the most common reasons customers contact support? Are customers failing during onboarding? Are answers already available but just difficult to find? Do support agents lack internal tools or some internal instructions on how to help customers? Now, as a business analyst, we should take all these questions into discovery conversations. So have maybe discovery workshops or some interviews with business stakeholders, or just go directly to support teams. Suppose we analyze support tickets and conduct interviews with solution agents. We may discover that a large portion of solution requests come from customers who are confused during onboarding. The documentation exists, But the problem is that it's fragmented across multiple sources and it contains multiple pages and it's very difficult to navigate. And customers struggle to find the right information quickly. That's why they contact support agents, even several times, and support agents have to repeatedly answer the same basic questions. So after we did this small, exercise with AI, just working with AI as a thinking partner, suddenly the problem, shifts its angle. So it looks different right now. The issue is not necessarily a lack of chatbot automation. The issue is knowledge accessibility and onboarding clarity. Now the team can explore several possible solutions, improving onboarding flows, reorganizing documentation, maybe introducing some welcome tours when customers first land on our web page or in our app, maybe simplifying some policies or introducing self-service tools for clients to, for our customers to find answers quicker and not to, um, um, not to go to our support agents and ask those questions. A support, a chatbot, this automation with the chatbots might still be part of the solution, but it's no longer the default answer. So we consciously made this decision that we will explore a much wider space of solutions in order to make sure that we are solving, the true underlying problem. And the uniqueness of this approach, I might say uniqueness, but it's just something that is not, not non-trivial or non-obvious, is that AI is not designing the solution that was asked at the beginning. Instead, it acts because the way that it helps us challenge the original framing of the problem and guide better discovery. So to make this even more practical, I would like to share a few, just four simple prompts analysts can start using immediately. So the first prompt is an assumption challenger. You can ask AI to list assumptions behind an idea and challenge each one. This is very useful whenever a stakeholder proposes a solution and makes a strong claim about a problem. And the second prompt supports counterfactual thinking. By asking AI to assume that a hypothesis is wrong, we can quickly explore alternative explanations and interpretations that might otherwise be overlooked. The third option here in our toolkit focuses on problem reframing. Asking AI to propose different ways of framing a problem helps analysts shift the conversation from solutions toward outcomes and true underlying need. The first prompt is, we haven't talked about it much, but it's related to decision stress testing. So here we ask AI to act as a skeptical advisor or, a very strict review of our requirements maybe, and ask it to identify potential risks, weaknesses in our proposed approach or in our documentation. And I believe that these prompts are intentionally simple. I made them simple because I don't want to, have you remember very difficult frameworks, which which you should, before applying, you should review, analyze, and then somehow, remember by heart. But the goal is to make it as easy as possible, not to ruin our daily workflow and not to, discourage us using AI, but to help us integrate AI into everyday discovery and analysis work even better. So with these small changes that I just mentioned in how we prompt AI, uh, this the way we prompt AI can significantly improve the quality of the thinking process within the teams. So it's not just us, but the whole team can change how we ship features and deliver value. So here, a few just main ideas, core message of this talk. AI is incredibly powerful, as you've seen, at generating answers, but the greatest opportunity for us as analysts is not faster answers, it's better thinking. As you see today, many people can just throw raw data or some information into any AI tool and just ask create requirements, right? But this is the difference between a business analyst and a good business analyst. That a good business analyst is just better at thinking, right? And not just makes copy paste from the AI tool to their artifacts. As business analysts, our role is not just to produce documentation and capture it quickly. Our role is to help teams understand the real problem before committing to any development work. And AI can support us in this work, but only if we use it differently. Instead of asking AI for solutions, we can ask it to challenge our assumptions, explore alternative explanations, stress test early decisions, and ask, to act as a devil's advocate. For the next time, so the next time you use AI in discovery or some complex analysis of a big request, so you can just try one simple shift. Instead of asking what's the solution, you can ask what might be wrong with this solution. Because the best way to use AI is to make it agree with you. It's to disagree intelligently. And just as a you know, um, last moment with you. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope this talk gave you slightly different perspective on how AI can support business analysts at work, not by replacing us, but just strengthening our thinking and making us more valuable to the business stakeholders and to ourselves. So I would be happy to take your questions if you have any. Please stay connected with me on LinkedIn and feel free to talk to me there, ask any questions, or share your feedback, thoughts, and any insights you might have.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nastassia. And I had a question for you. Uh, as an AI user, not like a advanced user, but I usually express my AI. You know what I mean? Express so much, and also uh, I read your prompts. Amazing that we should do some combination, and sometimes I ask AI, thinking as a CEO, thinking as a senior, thinking as a younger, and also they bring many alternatives for us. So thinking as a common user from Africa, that they don't need money to pay for the better version, that you can interact many times. Uh, what should be the better communication for everyday practice to guarantee the best return alternatives for some easy consultant? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you think it's possible to, let's start like this and this and this, those prompts or questions?
yeah, I believe it's possible. And recently, I read an article that now it's considered a best practice, like best practice to ask AI, not to just write a prompt yourself or just remember about different techniques to write prompts, but to ask AI to write the prompt for you. So you can explain whatever you need to do. For example, create some specific type of requirement, write a document, I don't know, come up with the interview questions, anything like that. You explain your role to AI and it helps you create the prompt. That other AI tool which you find better, maybe you can leverage various AI models. This can, because AI, so it's like the way AI talks to AI, right? And for people who are just starting their journey with AI, so that could be a great option. There are also a few platforms that are free, and they can offer much possibilities of generating various kinds of prompts. Uh, which would include multiple perspectives. For example, as you mentioned, a CEO or as a development team member or any, for example, sales manager, anyone, right? And we can also find, if you check, for example, OpenAI library of prompts, it has an official library of prompts that you can use, and it's also divided by different use cases. So if you are a marketer, if you are an IT professional, if you are sales or anyone else, so you can just find specific use cases for your specific industry, and just copy paste this prompt into ChatGPT or any other AI tool, and get the best result possible in this specific case. So I believe, with the ability of and availability of multiple tools, multiple models, and various tutorials on YouTube, which are free, anyone can start, leveraging AI benefits from day one and get best results.
Amazing. No, so the last question, and should be very shortly. If you are younger, using the AI, and you don't have this baggage, this load from the senior as you are, uh, what they could do to achieve some kind of return questions that even they don't know if it's okay or not okay. You know what I mean? To understand the perspective, like a younger guy who make the consult, but they doesn't know what they are telling, and but they need that answer. They need that return for their jobs. It's
So,
possible. It's possible to have this quality and this how can I say this confiability about the AI.
yeah, of course. So it's possible. So you don't have to have, paid licenses or be a pro in using AI, because AI, like, it's my personal opinion, maybe you don't agree, but it's like nothing special, right? Everyone go, it's like a hype at AI, and everyone just use it as a buzzword, but it's something, for me it's just a tool. Nothing changes. So it accelerates the way how we work, how we produce the speed how we produce artifacts as business analysts, for example, but it doesn't change the way we think. So previously we had Google. So if you wanted to get some result, to get some information, you just wanted to have a shorter, request and write it to Google, search field, right, in browser. So that's the way how I worked. And nothing changed for me when I use AI, right? So AI still has its chatbot functionality when you write, but of course you can write even longer prompts, even longer requests. But it's nothing, it's nothing fancy. So it's a tool like Word, Excel, anything like that. So it's just a tool that you can use for your own work. But I also know a lot of people, a lot of business analysts who don't use AI. Um, that's also their option, maybe to struggle and to stay. I'm not sure if they would stay competitive in the future, of course, because AI is changing the way how we, work, how we live. So, but yeah, just try it out. Just start trying it, not just preparing, reading about theory and watching different tutorials, but just open any chatbot and try to prompt and see the result.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Nastasia. Anyone had any other questions for her? Okay, so thank you so much, Nastasia. It's a pleasure to be here with you on
Thanks.
GABAC, and also I posted a LinkedIn about this session today. So have a nice day. See you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.